So that was my right. So a lot of people, they, they're rebellious during teen years, early 20s, and they maybe grow up in church and they take a detour and they sow some wild oats or whatever. And for me, like my greatest um my greatest struggle in life was self-righteousness. And so I was the Pharisee. And um
Interesting. Yeah.
and yeah, so I was that person. And I
Yeah.
was very judgmental and condemning. I think there was a culture at my church that was like that. Um I mean, we were full gospel, which is pretty arrogant, indicating that that these other churches aren't, full gospel. We were spirit filled, which indicated that we had to step up on those who weren't spirit filled. And and so there was this whole culture that we were the church that had everything going and all the other churches didn't. And
Yeah.
and so I
Yeah.
think there's this culture that if you're not careful, it's the same culture of the Pharisees. And if we're not careful, we just become very condemning, not only of unbelievers, but of other believers.
Right.
And
Right.
so I
Yeah.
just know for me, there was pride and arrogance, self-righteousness, and um and really thinking that I was all that instead of the
Right.
fact that I
Right.
was saved because Jesus was all that. And so if we're not careful, that we want to feel good about ourselves. And so I know for me, I would just be, instead of a treasure hunter trying to find good in people, I was very hypercritical. And so
Right. Right.
if you want to find fault, a fault finder will find fault,
Right.
right?
Right.
They will find fault because it's everywhere. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so for me, I was a fault finder. And I think that's
Right.
what a self-righteous person is. They're fault finders. And and so instead of seeing somebody as redeemable, we see them as faulty,
Yeah.
right?
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna like. Well, breaking news here. Tim Stone is the most self-righteous man on this podcast. So.
Hey, I am much better. I am much better, but
Well,
I
you
still
know what?
struggle
It's
sometimes.
it's much better because I don't think anybody would that I know that knows you, and I would never think that of you. I've heard your story somewhat, but I think that's something you like delve into more and because where you were weak, you're now strong in that area, obviously.
Yeah.
So and I think people, I think that's the true healing, true restoration is when we have the story and then people don't know that that was us.
Yeah.
They're like, what? And so I think that's like a powerful foundation laid there for you to utilize your past sin, your self righteousness,
Yeah.
to to help other people. Because I think it's there a lot. I bump